My granddaughter Fatima was missing and we were freaking out. She was there 1 minute and then gone the next. That's crazy. How did that happen? It took us a while to find her. When we found her, she was giggling and whispering to her imaginary friend. When we asked her who's she talking to, she just stared up at it like someone was really there. Amina, my daughter, and I hadn't taken it seriously before that night. Despite that, I have the gut-churning feeling that it's going to get worse. I live with my daughter Amina, who had a baby at 19. As you can guess, I have the status of a young grandmother at a relatively early age. Amina's husband is overseas and we three live in Karachi, Pakistan. Everyone involved has had a hard time helping Amina with her baby. As she learned to be a first-time mom, I supported her physically and emotionally. Neither of us get much sleep. When I felt my life fall apart, it only worsened in the last way that one would think. Despite being a toddler, my granddaughter Fatima developed impressive verbal skills. Fatima is a very intelligent child. She knows a wide range of words at just 3 years of age, which is remarkable. Urdu was the only language spoken around her, so when we heard her speaking fluent Punjabi out of nowhere, there was a rise of concern. When I asked my daughter how Fatima speaks Punjabi better than Urdu, she had no idea. We couldn't figure out how she picked it up, since she wasn't watching Punjabi shows or we didn't even have a babysitter. The weirdest part was not the Punjabi itself. She would only speak Punjabi to her imaginary friend. And she looked up at somewhere in the room like someone was there. Watching it was pretty disturbing for me and my daughter. We realized Fatima wasn't in the kitchen one night while cooking dinner with my daughter. Last time we saw her, she was playing with her Play-Doh in the kitchen. There's no way my daughter wouldn't have heard her leave if she left. When we couldn't find her, we started to freak out. That's crazy. How did that happen? Is it possible for a toddler to disappear from the house? The only area left untouched before calling the police was the lower kitchen cabinets. Holding my phone ready to call the police, I said, "She can't be in a cabinet." To my surprise, I was wrong. It's like a small hallway. If you open one of our cabinets and poke your head in, you can see behind every other cabinet door. Fatima was sitting in the cabinet, giggling and whispering Punjabi to her imaginary friend. While cooking, her quiet voice was not audible because the radio was also playing. But when we looked in, we saw that she seemed to be in a daze, unable to see or hear us. Suddenly, Fatima looked around the cabinet area confused and asked her imaginary friend, "Where are you?" "Where's who, Fatima?" Amina asked her daughter. Her face looks angry and frantic at the same time. "My friend?" In an irritated tone, Fatima replied. "What does your friend look like?" I asked. "Big, tall, and with hair on his lips," she responded. She does not know the word for mustache. Nevertheless, that chills us to the core. It was calm for a week after that. Fatima stopped talking to her imaginary friend as if he had left and never returned. As soon as that peaceful week ended, a new level of absurdity began. And seriously, it was far more worrying than my granddaughter suddenly speaking fluent Punjabi. I was watching a movie in the living room while the girls slept upstairs in their bedroom. My ears picked up a faint sound above me, but I decided not to pay attention. Then it hit me what it was. My daughter was crying on the stairs. "Amina, are you okay?" I asked her after pausing my movie. Asked again after the weeping continued. She kept crying, and there was no response. I walked up the stairs to console her, but as soon as I could see the top half of the staircase, the crying stopped as I noticed she was no longer there. Before looking up the staircase, I could have sworn she was right there. Her cries sounded so close. I was totally confused. I walked to their bedroom and cracked open the door. The two of them were lying in bed, both asleep. "Amina?" I whispered. She moaned. "Were you just crying on the staircase?" I asked her. "Mom, what are you saying?" "No, I'm sleeping," she muttered. And that confirmed it. I just heard what sounded exactly like my daughter crying on the staircase. Her sobs echoing across the house, clear as day, except she was sleeping the entire time. I told her what happened over breakfast the next morning. She looked at me with a blank expression. After I checked on her later that night, she said she thought she heard me crying, but it was coming from the living room. After seeing I wasn't downstairs, she got scared and ran back into her bedroom. Then I realized what was happening. We somehow thought the other one was crying, as if someone or something was playing mind tricks on us. After dinner one night, we were sitting down together to watch a movie. As this was happening, someone aggressively knocked on the front door. Then I got up to see who it was that was trying to eagerly reach us, but my daughter indicated she was not expecting anybody. I was amazed to find no one at the door when I opened it. As if nothing had happened, I locked the door, walked back to the living room, and I assumed it was neighborhood kids playing a prank. While passing the basement, I heard a loud knock again, but this time it did not come from the front door. I slowly turned around to look at the basement door, stunned what I had thought was happening. I stood in front of it, shaking with every hard knock. Paralyzed by fear, I stared at it for a moment before my survival instincts took over. It was time for the girls to get up, so I ran to the living room and demanded that they do so. After Amina tossed Fatima over her shoulder, we rushed out the door barefoot. We spent that night at my brother's house over while the police searched our home for the intruder. There were no signs of anyone in my house besides us girls. Ultimately, we stayed in that house for 3 more months before deciding it was time to move out. During those last 3 months, my daughter and I continued to hear one another speaking, similar to the staircase incident. I heard Amina yell out for my help when she wasn't home, and she heard me call her name from the basement while I was at work. Sleeping at night became difficult, and we slept in the same room during those final months. When we slept together, we could easily tell whether the voices we heard were genuine, except we never heard them. The only times we heard them were when we were alone and vulnerable, not when we were together. My memory of those incidents persists even years after the fact. Do we hear the voice of a malevolent Djinn? If that was true, we didn't see any weird activity during our many years living there until Fatima became a toddler. What's more disturbing is, when we lived in that house, did a Djinn play with my grandchild? It never occurred to me what would have happened if it didn't leave. All I can say is I'm glad those incidents have come to an end without any harm to us.